Let me ask you a disturbing but very important question. Why is it that some people become even stronger during a crisis, while most people come out of those same crises poorer? Why is it that when inflation rises, people living on salaries get crushed harder, while those close to the system somehow keep moving ahead? And more importantly, why has this pattern repeated not just once, but for centuries? Because the problem is not simply that prices go up. The problem is how money enters the system. The problem is who gets access to new money first. The problem is which kind of money people choose to hold and which kind they spend. And behind all of this are old rules that most people have never even heard of. Today, I am not going to tell you the story of just one country. I am going to explain how the money system really works. We are talking about something that, once you see it, will change the way you look even at economic news. We have always been told this. Money is neutral. The economy affects everyone in the same way. Inflation is nothing more than rising prices. But what happens in real life is much harsher than that. Because new money does not reach everyone at the same time. Because people hold on to what preserves value and release what is losing value into circulation. Because the system protects some people while slowly pushing others backward. This is where the real game begins. Think of a very simple example. You have two coins in your pocket. Both have the same number written on them. But one is truly more valuable, the other is weaker, less valuable. Now ask yourself, which one would you spend? Most people do the same thing. They keep the valuable one. They spend the worse one. Humanity has done exactly this for centuries. That is why there's an old economic observation. Bad money drives good money out of circulation. Because people are not stupid. No one willingly gives up something valuable in exchange for something worse. The state may say both are the same. The official system may present them as equal. But the public instinctively senses which one is more valuable. Then what happens? The valuable one disappears. It is hidden away, saved, hoarded. And what remains in circulation is usually the weaker one. Here, you need to realize that this is not only about money. The real issue here is trust. Because money is not just paper or metal. Money is a silent promise people make to one another. A shared belief that it will still carry value tomorrow. Once that belief weakens, people stop trusting official explanations and start trusting value itself. And that is exactly where the system begins to crack. But this is where the harsher side of the story begins. Because understanding why valuable money is hoarded is one thing. Understanding who wins when new money enters the system is another. Now let us come to the real question. What happens when a government or a central bank injects new money into the system? Most people automatically answer, inflation happens, fine. That is not wrong, but it is incomplete. The real question is this, who gets that new money first? Because that is exactly the point that determines the outcome of the game. New money does not appear in everyone's account equally when they wake up in the morning. It goes first to banks. It goes first to the financial system. It goes first to those who have the easiest access to credit. It goes first to large companies and those with the power to buy assets. And what do? They gain access to cheaper financing. They accumulate stocks. They accumulate real estate. They buy assets. They take positions before prices have fully jumped. But what does the ordinary person at the end of the chain experience? They receive their salary at the end of the month, but by the time that salary reaches their hands, rent has already gone up. Housing has become more expensive. Grocery costs have risen. The same money now buys less. So when new money enters the system, not everyone is winning at the same time. Some are collecting the advantage of moving early. Others are paying the price later. This is where the sense of injustice that most people feel but cannot quite name is born. Because this is how the system works. New money flows first to those close to power. The benefits form in their favor. First. Those at the end of the chain feel the change later, but usually much more painfully. And this is where the most disturbing side of the money system reveals itself. We are always told about prices, but much less is said about who gained the advantage right before prices rose. We are always told about inflation, but much less is said about who benefited first from the new money. We are always told to save, but almost nothing is said about whose. Door the money knocks on first. That is why so many people feel that the system is unfair, but cannot fully explain why. Because the issue is not just working hard. The issue is not just earning a salary. The issue is not just saving either. The issue is how close you are to the flow of money. On one side, people hold on to what preserves value. On the other side, new money moves first toward those close to power. When these two realities combine, many behaviors in today's world suddenly start to make sense. Why do people run toward whatever they see as safe during times of crisis? Why do some people not want to remain in cash? Why do people who own assets and people who live only on wages feel as if they are not even living in the same economy, even though they live in the same country? Because even if they are in the same game, they are not standing in the same place on the board. And perhaps the most disturbing point is this. These things are not clearly taught to most people from childhood. In school, the technical side of the system is taught, but the power side is taught much less. Rising prices are discussed, but who was protected before prices rose is rarely discussed. Saving is advised. But who receives new money first is questioned much less. Because if someone only sees that prices are rising, they complain. But once someone understands how wealth changes hands, they begin to ask questions. Why does the saver become more fragile in some periods? Why do those close to credit and assets come out ahead? Why does the system not hit everyone equally in every crisis? At that point, the economy stops being just about numbers. It turns into a map of power. Because money is not only a tool of exchange, money is an advantage that buys time. Money is access. Money is an invisible key that opens some doors before others. And who gets that key first has a huge effect on who remains stronger in the end. Now, the main lesson that should be taken from this video is this. What leaves you behind is not always simply earning too little. Sometimes the real issue is realizing too late how the system works. Sometimes poverty is not just a lack of income. Sometimes poverty means that others learned the rules of the game before you did and started with the advantage. Good money is hoarded. New money goes first to power, and when these two truths come together, they produce a harsh but clear conclusion. The system does not protect everyone equally. It pushes some people forward. It silently leaves others behind. But the good news is this. Once you see something, you can never look at it the same way again. From that point on, you stop looking only at prices. You start looking at the flow of money. You stop looking only at inflation. You start looking at who gained the advantage before inflation arrived. You stop saying only that the economy is bad. You begin to understand why what is getting worse does not hit everyone equally. And maybe for the first time, you notice this. Why do some people come out stronger after every crisis? Because they see how the game is structured earlier. Some protect what is valuable in time. Some stay closer to the flow of new money. Some realize what the system is doing far too late. That is where the difference is created. That is why looking at history matters. Because history does not only explain the past, it also explains the present. Sometimes it even whispers in advance which direction the future is coming from. And perhaps the real thing you were never taught is this. Money is never completely neutral. The system never works the same way for everyone. And those who do not understand the rules of the game usually end up on the side that pays the price of that game. But once you see the rule, you are no longer blind. You no longer just live through what happens. You begin to see why it happens too.